Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be continuing what we've already started as far as shooting in manual mode and how you can learn to become a better photographer. In this video, we're specifically going to be talking about the 50mm lens, also referred to as the Nifty 50. This video will be broken down into 3 parts. We will be discussing why it's a great lens, how it can help you to learn more about shooting in manual mode than some of the other lenses, or maybe even more specifically a kit lens, as well as why most universities almost require this lens if you're going to be in Photo 101 as part of their learning. We're also going to be giving you bonus content. As always, we're going to try to discuss a few things about the 50mm lens that a lot of people just kind of glass over. Ha! You see how I did that? Glass over the topic? We're going to be discussing in detail some of the bonus content along with the Nifty 50. So let's get to the video. Welcome to the channel. If you're new to our channel, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Dale, and I'm a photographer here in East Texas. We're going to specifically be talking about the Canon lens because we're going to be using the Canon Rebel XT, the one that I've got here on my chest. This is the camera and the lens that we're using. Canon has 2 50mm lenses that are considered primes, one being a 1.8 and the 1.4. This one being a 1.4 is the one we're going to be using on our channel. It doesn't really matter if you get the 1.4 or the 1.8. Both lenses are extremely fast and both lenses are extremely affordable. That being one of the great things about the Nifty 50. When I say the lens is fast, we're talking about the amount of light that it lets in. That f1.4 or f1.8 aperture, or your f-stop, is really big, and that big hole allows a lot of light to enter into your camera sensor so that you can record even at lower light levels with a lower ISO. One of the other great things about this lens is that 1.4, 1.8 is a fast lens, but the biggest deal with it being a prime lens, you're going to get a much better image quality than what you could probably get from your kit lens. A lot of the kit lenses have a multitude of other pieces of glass or plastic inside the lens depending on the quality of the lens. The one great thing about the 50mm or any prime lens for that matter is you don't have near as many working parts, so there's less things to go wrong and or less ways to introduce artifacts or distortion into the image. So one of the great things about it right off the bat is it's fast, and it creates and helps you create crystal sharp images. You can get super sharp images, much sharper than what the ordinary kit lens would be able to provide. One of the other great features about the 50mm lens is it's real small, it's real light. There's no reason not to be taking your camera with you out in the field now. A lot of your kit lenses are going to be bigger, especially when you start talking about zooms, and before you know it, you end up taking your cell phone instead of your camera out in the woods. This lens is light, very light, small, compact, and now you've got a great lens so you can record even in lower levels of light and get quality images. Again, this lens is technically considered older technology, and we'll go more into that when we get into the bonus rounds of this video. One of the great things about this 50mm lens, especially if you're trying to learn more about how to become a more creative photographer using not only your shutter speed but your aperture, One of the great things about the Nifty 50, and it's going to help you really see the difference. If you're using a kit lens and you're starting out with like f3.5, 4.5, 5.6, you never really get the appreciation of what an f-stop of 1.4, 2.0, or 2.8 is, because your lens won't allow you to ever see that difference. Again, guys, this lens is too affordable, it's too small, too compact to not take advantage of this, especially knowing that it's going to help you learn more about your camera and what your lens is, and your camera and equipment combined together, the tools that you have as a photographer. It's going to help you learn so much quicker, because you're going to be able to actually, when you get back home, because don't ever trust the back of your camera. Your viewfinder that you're looking at may or may not even be right. And the reason I say that is they're all different. The one on this Rebel XT, it's tiny. Guys, you can't get a good feel of what the image looks like until you get home. When you put it on your computer screen, and even if you're using a laptop, that's a lot bigger and it's a lot better visually for you to understand the difference in your aperture or your f-stop and what it can do to help improve your images. It's just one more reason why, and I put this in a section alone because it's that important to me. I know a lot of you guys are following along because you want to learn how to shoot in manual mode, and that's part of this video series as well, but I dedicated an entire section just for this because I believe it's so important. Great lens, real lightweight, take it anywhere, and provides great crystal sharp images to help you take your photography to another level. This is absolutely beautiful scenery right in here. I want to pan the camera around and let you guys see this cove. Okay, the third section that I want to just touch on briefly, and this is kind of where it gets kind of fun and exciting. But as you know, a lot of universities, a lot of junior colleges, a lot of just general, even photo stores that teach photography, a lot of them will suggest this Canon Nifty 50 lens as a great lens to learn with. We've already covered some of the things in the video already, explaining why I think it's a great lens and why it's a great buy. Here's one thing that you don't hear a lot of people talking about when you start talking about camera gear and photo gear. And this is kind of the last but bonus section as well. When you guys, if you guys have been looking at cameras for very long, you know that consumer cameras are upgraded regularly. Basically every year or two, they're going to come out with the new Rebel XTI or the XT7 or whatever else they change their name to. They'll do some upgrades to them. Well, what happens every time that they come out with a new camera or replacement camera? The value of your camera just went down. That's one of the great things, and again, not something that you hear a lot of people talk about. When you start talking about lenses, especially even like this lens number one is affordable, but it will hold its value for a long time. You can look at it as an investment. So let's say that you bought the one for $125. 5 years from now, and I hope it never happens to you guys, I hope that you don't have to get out of the photography business, but I know that sometimes life happens and sometimes you have to sell your equipment. You could still get $100 more than likely for that lens being used because they don't upgrade them all the time and they actually hold their value. Now, would I call it an investment? Yes, and here's the reason why. You're going to have a lot more than $25 worth of fun, and if your image quality is tons better with a good lens over a kit lens, it's paying for itself every time that you take a photo, every time you take a video. And since we're specifically talking about learning how to use your camera in camera manual mode, it's just going to pay off in the long run. So if you lost $25, is it that big of a deal? It's better than losing 50% if you had just a kit lens, because a lot of your kit lenses just don't hold their value. When you start talking about good quality glass, and we haven't even touched on the L series lenses or the pro grade lenses, But just like this prime, this 50mm prime, it will hold its value a long time. While we're talking about prime lenses real quick, just like we were talking about with the zoom lenses, there's less elements and there's less things that can go wrong inside the lens, and you end up with better quality images. I'm not knocking the zooms because there's a time and place for a zoom lens. The other added benefit, sorry, there's ducks flying around. The other added benefit of it being a fixed focal length, you're going to have to move around. This moving around to compose your shot and get your composition the way you want it is going to make you a better photographer. A lot of times the zoom lenses make us lazy, so instead of taking 15 more feet further up the trail so that you don't have trash in your foreground, you're going to have to, with a zoom lens, you could just zoom over the trash can. With a 50mm, you're going to have to walk up there. When you get up there, you may see a whole different composition that you would have ordinarily just skipped over and missed. There's a lot of great things with fixed focal lenses that help you and make you a better photographer, because when you're looking through your viewfinder, I start at the top left and I go all the way around, and I look to make sure that everything that I want in that picture is in there, and if there's junk in it, I try to clean it up now. You're better off making an image in your camera with less work when you get home than just getting one thinking, I'll fix it when I get home. Do it right in camera, guys. It saves yourself so much time when you get home, and instead of spending hours and hours editing, you can go through, do some quick edits, get your work published, do it, post it to Facebook, whatever you're going to do with your images. And now you can start planning your next trip because you didn't spend a week in there doing edits from one weekend's photo shoot. Get it right in camera. The prime lenses help you make sure that you get it right, because you're going to have to move around. You're going to get up high. You're going to get down low. You guys have been watching me do these videos. This is the second field trip. I'm always constantly on the ground. That's why I wear knee pads. Whether I'm on one knee or I get down on my belly, I'll climb up on top of park benches, whatever I need to do to get the image the way I want to make the image in the camera and do it right the first time. Alright, the next thing that you don't hear a lot of people talking about when they're talking about the Nifty 50 camera lens, especially with digital photography today, is crop sensor. A lot of your consumer grade cameras, just like our Rebel XT, it's got like a 1.4, 1.6 crop factor to it. Now, what does that mean to you? What that means is, essentially, this camera, when you put a 50mm lens on it, it's closer to an 80. So you're going to take that 1.5, 1.4, 1.6, let's just call it 1.5 for argument's sake. 1.5 times the focal length, and that's how you're going to come up with that number. So 1.5 times 50 is basically 75mm. So what that means is when the lens was actually made, especially these older lenses, they were made for film cameras, and your film sensor, if you will, your film size, the norm for your DSLRs is 35mm. So when you start talking about image sensors, a full frame camera, a digital full frame camera, is essentially the same size as a 35mm film would be. Your crop sensors are smaller than that. So basically the image coming into your camera is going to be covering that sensor. It's focusing the light down into your sensor, which is how you get your sharp images. So if you can picture, and I'll actually throw up a diagram, the 35mm frame being here, when you're using a smaller crop sensor, it's actually kind of cropping in onto the image. It's not actually doing a crop, but the way that the light is coming in, you're cutting out a bigger portion of the usable light, which is basically where you come up with the crop factor. So if you truly wanted the 50mm lens is close to human sight. If you truly wanted that on like the Rebel XT, you probably need to look around at 35mm lens, which would be perfectly fine as well. But the biggest deal that I want you guys to think about, especially when you're trying to learn manual photography, your prime lenses are going to be much crisper, much sharper images. They're also going to be much faster. And again, when I'm talking about the speed, I'm not talking about how quickly it can focus. I'm talking about how much light it brings into the camera with those larger f-stops, your aperture being much larger than the kit lens would be. So again, that's just something else kind of fun to think about. So where does that bring us if you're using a 50mm lens on a digital Rebel? Is it going to make a good portrait lens? Absolutely. Is it going to make a good all-around lens? Absolutely. Is it going to be something that you can take with you all the time because it's light, easy to carry? Absolutely. That's one of the things that or several of the things that I really love about this lens. That's why so many colleges and universities want their students to be using them. With that said, a lot of y'all may or may not know, I'm a graduate of the New York Institute of Photography. I took that class many years ago, back when it was a mail-in class only. I've re-enrolled. The reason that I've re-enrolled is because I want to be able to send people that want to really further their education more so than what I'm going to be able to do here on YouTube. And I want to know for a fact that this school is exactly what it used to be when I was younger. When I was younger, again, it was all done in film. They've revamped the entire course. It's all geared for digital photographers. Another fun fact for you guys, we're already into the first lesson. We've completed all of our quizzes and exams, and now we've got our first photo assignment. We're going to be taking you guys along with the photo assignment, and that's another reason I think you will enjoy the 50mm lens. If you want to participate, I'd encourage you to subscribe to our channel. Again, we appreciate your likes, comments, and subscribes. We look forward to hearing from you. What else would you like to learn about manual mode? Because we've got several lessons planned already. Again, we appreciate your likes, comments, and subscribes. We haven't reached our goal of 100 subscribers this month, but with your help, we can get that done. Please share this video with other people that you know that are interested in learning more about photography. Again, let's go shoot some stuff.